The eyes of the nation are on the Tampa Bay area for one of the biggest political events of the year and a storm named Isaac.
How will the tropics impact the Republican National Convention, and how will it all affect you?
Tonight, we're taking action for you with live team coverage in this ABC Action News special, Navigating the RNC. And we are joining you live from the Tampa Bay Times Forum, the site of the Republican National Convention. Good evening, I'm Brendan McLaughlin. Thank you for joining us for this ABC Action News special.
And good evening, I'm Wendy Ryan. We have a lot to cover during this hour, but we want to start with the system that's already impacting the convention, and of course all of us. We're talking about Isaac.
Chief Meteorologist Dennis Phillips begins our live team coverage with the latest on this storm's track. Dennis, good evening.
How you doing, guys? The good news is, at least in terms of the effects on the RNC, they will certainly be a lot more minimal than they could have been. Now, let's go right into it, folks. Let's look at the satellite picture. Now, we still are looking at a system that is creating some issues. In fact, we're actually hearing reports of funnel clouds in Highlands County around Sebring. So certainly there is an opportunity for some isolated tornadoes, and I would not be shocked if the tornado watch that was dropped just a couple of hours ago is reissued for our northern counties. But here, in terms of our area, the Bay Area, is why things look much better now than they did 24 hours ago. I know there are a lot of closings, but in terms of how our weather is shaping up tonight into tomorrow, the worst will be offshore, the worst will be to our south. What do we expect? We expect winds of 35 to 45 tops. Gusts maybe a bit higher, and very, very heavy rains. But as Isaac pulls away, it takes most of the rough weather along with it. So that means our conditions clear. So for day 2, 3, and 4, the weather should be improving, especially later Tuesday afternoon and again on Wednesday. So tonight through tomorrow morning, we get bands coming through. And I think by Monday afternoon, when this begins to ramp up, we get some slightly heavier weather near the shore. But again, a lot of people were holding their breath earlier on. I think we are okay. Nasty weather? Certainly. Devastating or damaging? I don't buy it. Guys?
All right, thanks, Dan. We'll check back with you. Well, because of Isaac, the RNC announced it is canceling activities on Monday due to the possibility the storm could create dangerous conditions.
But convention organizers promise that Isaac will not spoil Mitt Romney's Republican presidential nomination, which is expected to happen Tuesday now.
RNC organizers say rain or shine, they do have contingency plans, and this show of political force will go on. The Emergency Operations Center for Hillsborough County is on alert for a storm event, something they say they've been preparing for months. And that could mean evacuating hundreds of convention delegates, if necessary.
Right now, many of those delegates, guests, and media here for the convention are across the bay at an RNC kickoff party at Tropicana Field.
That's right. Our Jacqueline Inglese is outside where police are watching out for the demonstrators. Our Meredith Sensulo is going to show you how this is impacting traffic in that area right now. But we want to begin with our Linda Hurtado, who is actually inside the big party. Linda?
Hi, Wendy. I have to tell you, it feels a little odd to be standing here in a party dress right now on a night when some of our viewers may be feeling the effects of a tropical storm. But you know that very famous saying, the show must go on. And what a show it is. I'm going to ask Freight, my photographer, to take you into the party here at Tropicana Field so you can enjoy it with us. The Tampa Bay Host Committee invited about 20,000 people, including state delegates, members of the media. Now, this party kicks off RNC Week with what you're seeing. It's a cocktail-style evening reception that features a lot of live entertainment, but also highlights our area's entertainment, food, history, and culture. Now, I talked to the host committee president, Ken Jones, about when they made the decision to keep the party going, and he stopped me before I could even put the question out and said there was never any intention on canceling this party. They've been watching Isaac for 3 days. They knew that the storm was not going to get too close to us and that it wasn't a danger in terms of safety. So the party goes on. What they had to do to make this party happen is turn Tropicana Field around in 24 hours. The Secret Service took control of what you see as soon as Saturday's game ended. About 600 media requests came in to cover this event. Security, let me tell you, tight. We had to drop off our gear on Saturday. We had to pass through a checkpoint to get here today. But once inside Tropicana Field, it's really kind of like you're in your own little world where Isaac wasn't invited. So country music star Rodney Atkins is a headliner. I had a chance to interview him a short time ago. And if you join us tonight at 11, you'll get to hear from him. Tampa native Shannon McGrain, you might remember her from American Idol. She performed. Carla Davis, and I think we have some performers right now that Frank is probably on from Belly Dancers, I believe, from Busch Gardens. So we will be here for the night, bringing you the live pictures, bringing you tweeting actually too. I'm going to be tweeting throughout the event. You can also join me on Facebook. On Twitter, I am El Hurtado WFTS or Linda Hurtado WFTS on Facebook. I have the mayor of St. Petersburg sitting right next to me, waiting to do an interview with us. He's going to give us a little insight on what it took to pull off this kind of party. All right? Reporting live from the Trop right now, I'm Linda Hurtado. Now I'll throw it back to you.
All right, thanks, Linda. It is a Bay Area-wide event, that's for sure. Of course, thousands of people have come to town not to celebrate, but to oppose the convention. We continue our team coverage now with Jacqueline Glaze.
She's outside the Trop where police are looking out for demonstrators. Jacqueline, what's going on out there?
I'm here on the east side of the Trop, and let me tell you, demonstrator-wise, it's been a disappointing evening out here. About 20 minutes ago, we did see a parade of people come down and fill this area, but once this rain started out here, just the trickle that it is, they took off toward the buses and headed back to their hotel rooms. Now, more than 300 protesters walked in the rain earlier this afternoon, hoping that Republican delegates and Mitt Romney were watching and listening. Some are from right here in Florida. Others, like Tom Gallrap, are in from faraway places like Freeport, Illinois. Gallrap and his co-workers are employed by a manufacturing company Mitt Romney started. Now, Gallrap says 70 people will be without jobs as their work is outsourced to China. Gallrap tried reaching out to Romney in Chicago, but says he got no response, and that's what brought him down here.
They like to say that they built businesses. Well, the people that work there also built the businesses, and to just sell us down the river, for another $1 is just absolutely wrong.
I was able to ask one protester why they only spent 20 minutes out here, and they told me they wanted to get in and out, make their point, and get in out of the rain. For now, we are live in St. Petersburg. Jacqueline Glaze, ABC Action News.
Thank you, Jacqueline. And right now, there are roads shut down because of this event.
Meredith Sensulo is keeping an eye on road closures around the Trop so you can find the best way to get around it. Good evening, Meredith.
Hi there. I don't think there's any better way than to show you a live picture of our traffic camera along I-175, which usually carries traffic into downtown St. Pete. Right now, the only traffic, as you can see there, being allowed by busloads of delegates and other dignitaries invited to that big event at Tropicana Field. Everyday folks like you and I, unless we have credentials, not able to travel on I-175 right now. I want to show you a really great tool. It's an interactive Google map provided by the city of St. Petersburg that will actually show you every single road closure in downtown St. Pete, as you see here in red, as well as parking restrictions. Now, the good news is for most of us, these roads will be reopening on Monday morning after 6 a.m. Right now, everything is closed. Parking restrictions, though, will still be in effect Monday through Friday in some areas. So if you work or live near Tropicana Field, Mirror Lake, Owlang Field near downtown, you are going to have some trouble with parking. But again, roads will be reopening, including I-175 by tomorrow morning. Of course, I'll be here tomorrow morning starting at 4 a.m. to bring you the very latest on road closures. And you'll want to stay with us because in just a couple of minutes, I'm going to talk about the big closures in Tampa, including the planned closure of the Salmon Expressway happening tomorrow. For now, back to you guys.
All right, thank you, Meredith. Well, the county building is shut down during the RNC, and 1,500 employees had to relocate. Officials are making sure the county center is protected from protesters while the offices are vacant.
The city officials have set aside public areas for protesters near the Forum. Our Jameson Euler joins us now from one of those protest zones. And Jameson, there just aren't a lot of people to protest to right now.
Yeah, not at least at this point, Brendan, but even though the first day of events at the RNC are postponed tomorrow, they still expect a lot of protesters to show up here. And the city right now and law enforcement not so much concerned about the peaceful protesters who are expected to show up here by the thousands over the course of the next 4 days for the RNC and fill the protest zones like the one here behind me. But really, it's the anarchist movement that has considerably grown in the last 4 years that has the attention of law enforcement, the ones that caused so much trouble during the 2008 RNC in Minneapolis. And although it was 4 years ago, it was certainly a lesson learned for Tampa for this year's Republican National Convention.
Please don't be diverted by the ground noise and the static.
The Republican National Convention in Minneapolis in 2008 was a success inside. But outside, a black eye for the Twin Cities as protesters clashed with police and destroyed downtown buildings. More than 800 people were arrested and damage was in the millions of dollars. Mistakes were made, and Tampa Police Chief Jane Castor tells me she and her team went straight to Minneapolis to find out how to prevent a repeat for this year's Republican convention.
When you watch those videos, of burning police cars or those kind of things, that's what we have worked for over a year to prevent those types of issues from occurring.
The training has been intensive. It even included Tampa Police going to this year's NATO summit in Chicago to observe the protests from the ground level. Tampa has set up protester parade routes for the RNC and protester zones near the forum. Minneapolis police tried it, but Chief Castor says it failed because law enforcement there did not anticipate protesters branching off to the lesser policed downtown side streets. It left officers disbanded and vulnerable.
They segregated them geographically and by radio communication. And as a result, they put a lot of their resources along the parade route, and they had trouble in other areas of town, and they weren't immediately able to communicate that.
Minneapolis also made the mistake of not banning many of the items that caused major property damage: bike locks, chains, and pipes. Protesters were allowed to wear masks to hide their identities. All of those are banned for this year's RNC.
Several people have asked me how I would define a successful event. And I would say at the end of the week, everybody's talking about the political process and nobody mentions law enforcement.
Yeah, and Chief Castor knows that there will be flare-ups, there will be arrests out here, but the city is hoping to minimize those by setting up protest zones or event zones like this one here behind me right around the Tampa Bay Times Forum. We're going to show you those coming up a little bit later in this broadcast, but for now we're live in Channelside. I'm Jameson Euler, ABC Action News.
All right, thank you, Jameson. It has been 40 years since the last political convention here in Florida. Miami hosted both parties in the summer of 1972.
That's right, but for the first time, Tampa is home to an event many compare to hosting 4 consecutive Super Bowls. The Tampa mayor compares it to a football game. He says we practiced hard and are ready to play. Tampa was twice a finalist as host city for the GOP convention and twice denied. That's why the call in 2010 sounded so sweet. Tomorrow we'll know if nearly 3 years of planning was enough.
You play on Saturday the way you practice during the week. And we've practiced hard.
Mayor Bob Buckhorn is confident Tampa and the entire Bay Area is ready for prime time. 15,000 members of the press will create an estimated 10 billion media messages beamed around the world.
10 years from now, they will say about this time that this was the most important single event in Tampa's recent history.
To make sure it's important in a good way, the downtown has been fortified but also beautified. Major additions like the new Tampa Museum of Art and Curtis Hickson Park are ready for their close-ups. Other improvements to Bayshore Boulevard, the Riverwalk, and the downtown gateways were sped up to meet the deadline. The 50,000 visitors will be seeing a city in bloom with destinations like the newly renovated Florida Inn Hotel. Downtown is shedding its image as a dead zone. But the convention's reach goes far beyond downtown. From Legoland to the Pinellas beaches, businesses are getting a rush of customers during the normally slow summer doldrums. The net economic impact is in dispute. The RNC estimates the value at $175 million in direct spending. Academics put it somewhere between that and zero. But the event could be transformative to many small and medium-sized businesses, from florists.
It's been wonderful, and just working with all the different states and the different venues that we've never worked with before.
To restaurateurs who've booked their places for the whole week at top dollar.
Basically a brand new restaurant that is nearly debt-free.
The expected windfall could always be snatched away by a storm in the Gulf or a storm of protest. And the media spotlight will expose to the world our faults as well as our virtues. But Tampa Bay will be elevated just by the ambition of the undertaking. The message, we are a great American city capable of great things.
If we come out of this and people around the world, when they think of Florida, think of more than Miami and Orlando, but they think of Tampa in that same sentence. I think this will pay dividends for a generation.
And next, St. Petersburg Mayor Bill Foster will be joining us live from the RNC kickoff party at the Trop to talk about this unprecedented time in Tampa Bay history.
Plus, from your commute to your vehicle potentially getting searched, we're going to show you the daily hassles you may be up against and how to work around it when navigating the RNC continues. Welcome back to our special coverage of Navigating the RNC.
We are live at the Tampa Bay Times Forum, the site of the Republican National Convention that kicks off tomorrow, though most of the day's events have been pushed to Tuesday because of Isaac. We want to go back to Linda Hurtado, who is live at the Trop in St. Pete, where the kickoff party for the RNC is underway. And I guess it's a fine line between covering a party like this and simply attending it and having a good time, huh, Linda?
You know, Brendan, I can't help myself. I'm working, but I'm also having a good time. This party hasn't been canceled. We are live at the Trop for the kickoff, as you mentioned, for the RNC. And joining me now is St. Pete Mayor Bill Foster. And it looks like the city of St. Pete threw a party, and everybody came.
Absolutely. We have people here from all 50 states and territories. Most of them have never been to Tampa Bay or St. Petersburg. And one thing we can always assure them, it never rains inside Tropicana Field.
Yes, that is true. Let's talk about some of the challenges that you faced. Okay, traffic took us a while to get in here today. Security, we had to go through a checkpoint, which in my 17 years of being a reporter here, I have never gone through a checkpoint like that. So let's talk about these challenges.
You know, this whole thing has been a challenge, but it's really been a labor of love for most of us. You know, you only get one chance to make a good first impression. And with all of these visitors who, for the most part, are here to do the business of the party, they're not going to really get a chance to see all of the museums or put their feet in the sand and really experience Tampa Bay the way that we would like for them to. So tonight we're going to whet their appetite, give them a small taste of what Tampa Bay has to offer, and invite them to come back. Spend a week, bring your family, spend a lot of money, and really explore all of the really nuances that make it a very special place.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And Isaac didn't crash this party, did he?
No, this is fun. People are having a ball.
Thank you for joining us. All right, when we come back to the Trop, a John Voight sighting at TIA. I'm going to tell you the 5 hottest places where you can go celebrity watching during the RNC. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Linda. Now, while this convention may go down as one of the biggest events Tampa's ever seen, it may also be remembered as a colossal headache for some.
It sure will. The people who live here know by now the RNC will likely interrupt their daily routine. Our Ryan Ray shows you the daily hassles you should expect.
For the next week, the word to remember is patience. Depending on where you live, you may need a lot of it.
It's going to be a delay. There's no way around that. You're going to have access problems both getting on and off the island.
For the roughly 3,500 people who call Harbor Island home, there's now only one way in and out. The West Bridge is closed. Since the community is so close to the convention, every car is subject to search at a checkpoint. The Secret Service will pick and choose mainly during convention hours between 2 and midnight.
We've gotten everything from 40 minutes to an hour and 40 minutes. It really just depends.
For those who absolutely must drive through town, you may want to study up. Nearly every road south of Whiting is closed, including Platt Street Bridge and the Crosstown Expressway.
It's bigger than anything that I've ever been involved in.
For those who decide to navigate the maze of road closures, it may be worth double-checking your destination. If it's the Frederick B. Carl County Center, don't bother. The county shut it down, but spent thousands to temporarily move workers to satellite offices. That means if you have a ticket to pay, you're not off the hook. Check the website to find out where the service moved.
I just hope that everybody will be able to smile when we're all through with this.
If it's any consolation, the daily hassle is a two-way street. What's affecting you is likely affecting the place you are going. Businesses like Eddie's Cleaners are afraid it'll be dead all week, yet it's only making a slight change to service.
Well, we're just not going to do same-day service. It won't be, you can't have it in by 9 and out by 5. So everything is always going to be the next day.
I'm Ryan Reyes reporting for ABC Action News.
Meredith Sensulo is going to show us how to navigate the many road closures in Tampa. Meredith, now we've got crowded streets plus weather to deal with.
Yeah, a little bit of both. If there's some good news, though, I talked to Tampa Police Chief Jane Castor yesterday, and she said, you know what, she didn't think that the Monday morning drive was going to be that big of a problem because most of those delegates will be heading into downtown Tampa on Monday afternoon, and now it doesn't look like that's going to happen. And because school now out throughout most of Tampa Bay tomorrow, I don't expect your early morning commute will be too difficult unless you're going into downtown Tampa. So let's talk about it. You heard in Ryan's story that most of those road closures are happening south of Whiting along the Channel Side area, and those closures do include some big bridges in downtown, including the Platt Street Bridge and the Broering Street Bridge. Your options there are Ashley or Cass. Also closed the Franklin Street Bridge, which is the bridge out to Harbor Island. All traffic to Harbor Island must use the beneficial bridge from Meridian. Davis Island bridges, though, are open, and that's good news for folks that need to access Tampa General Hospital. Now, starting at midnight tonight, the Selman Expressway will be closed, the lower level in both directions between 50th Street and Willow. If there's some good news here is that the upper elevated express lanes will remain open. So from 6 a.m. in the morning, obviously, and through downtown Tampa, you will be able to access Tampa westbound, and then from 1 o'clock through 6 a.m. the next morning, you will be able to head eastbound on the upper deck. By the way, those westbound lanes dump you off at Meridian, which is right near the Channel Side area. Again, though, that lower deck will be closed and traffic will be required to use I-4 and I-275 to get around it. All of these detours are on the homepage of abcactionnews.com, and I'm also updating you on Twitter. You can follow me there at Tampa Bay Traffic. We're going to talk parking in just a couple of minutes. Stick around for that. Now back to you.
Coming up, Michael George joins us with a special I-Team investigation.
They promised the Republican National Convention would bring in $175 million to Tampa Bay. Well, we found millions of those dollars may actually be headed out of state. I'm I-Team investigator Michael George, and that story's coming up.
Welcome back to our special coverage, Navigating the Republican National Convention. Organizers promise the event will bring more than $175 million in direct spending to Tampa Bay.
But I-Team investigator Michael George fact-checked that claim and found some of those numbers are being exaggerated. He joins us now live from the Bud Light deck with details. Michael?
Wendy, Brendan, having one day of the convention essentially canceled due to the storm changes everything, but organizers still promised a big economic benefit to Tampa Bay. Well, we crunched the numbers and found millions of those dollars may actually be headed out of state. There's no question the RNC means big money. But does it really add up to the $175 million the host committee promised? Ken Jones is the host committee chair, and he tells me, if anything, the convention is exceeding predictions.
We targeted 75,000 hotel room nights for this convention. We've already surpassed 90,000 as of yesterday. It's a great surprise.
The $175 million figure includes everything from security to construction, cars, hotels, and airfare. I asked Jones whether much of the money for the hotels and airfare will go to parent companies based out of state, like Marriott or AirTran.
And the answer to that's no. These folks employ local people. You need waiters, you need servers, you need front desk check-in clerks, people to clean the rooms, drivers. All that is local economy.
The benefit to us has to be what we sell, not what they spend.
Dr. Philip Porter is an economics professor at USF, and he says these estimates never take into account the negative economic impact of the convention.
What does it cost us? Well, it cost us easy access to downtown. It cost us all of the businesses that can't operate because they're in the controlled zone.
But that's just the beginning. We found millions of dollars going out of state in the RNC security funds. There's $1 million helicopter video upgrade purchased from a California company, $500,000 for tactical vehicles from Massachusetts, and nearly $300,000 for fencing from a Nashville company. Organizers claim they can still count that as local money because local law enforcement will keep the equipment after the convention.
That's buying equipment that we won't need once this is over. It's buying labor and personnel that are from outside the community.
And what about the hundreds of contingency officers being brought in from outside of Tampa Bay? Jones tells me their expenses, at least, will be spent locally.
But when we talk about those officers who are out of the Tampa Bay area, those salaries are still being included in the $175 million figure. So is that $175 million being exaggerated?
Well, I guess if you were to think that the 175 was impacting someplace other than Florida, I think your claim would be good. But the fact that we're going to also promote the rest of the state's economy, how is that bad? It's not bad. It's a great thing.
And again, the storm and the cancellation throw a lot of the estimates out the window. We may have to wait until after the convention to get a clear sense of the economic benefit to our area. I'm I-Team investigator Michael George, ABC Action News.
Thank you, Michael. The convention may have an impact on local hospitals. Coming up next, we'll show you what you need to do if you get sick or have an emergency.
And the center of Isaac has certainly begun to get a bit stronger over the last couple of hours. It is clearing the keys. The question is, does that mean bad news for us and day one of the convention? We'll tell you coming up.
Welcome back to our special coverage as we help navigate the Republican National Convention.
Linda Hurtado joins us once again from the RNC kickoff party at the Trop in St. Petersburg. Good evening, Linda. Looks like fun.
Oh, it is fun, Brendan. You know, let me take you to the party right behind me. This is a mixture of delegates, members of the media, some political VIPs. I couldn't even begin to guesstimate how many people are here, but 20,000 people were invited, and as you can see, the floor is packed. Well, the party here inside the Trop, though, may be inconveniencing some locals in more ways than one. I-175, the interstate that goes right by Tropicana Field and into St. Pete, is shut down. That is one of the main arteries leading to Bayfront Hospital and All Children's Hospital. Now, both of the hospitals are open for business as usual, but they've told some staff and family members with patients in those hospitals to take other exits off the interstate. Next week, Tampa General Hospital and St. Joseph's Hospital may be impacted by the RNC. Here's what you need to know in the event of an emergency this week. Call 911. Wait for the paramedics. They will have access to the closed roads and they can get you to the ER. Here's more on what you should do if you get sick during the week of the Republican National Convention. Doctors at the MedExpress walk-in clinic near the University of South Florida are busy already, but they expect more traffic during the week of the Republican National Convention.
We're expecting a lot of heat-related illnesses, and just with the influx of people, we're just going to have a lot more minor injuries to treat.
The doctor also expects an increase in the numbers of locals.
Well, hospitals are great if you're having a true emergency, like symptoms of a stroke or heart attack, and that you feel may be life-threatening. For most other things, sprains, strains, cuts, if you think you might have broke a bone, those are all things that we can evaluate here at MedExpress. We have digital x-ray, we have the ability to do laceration repairs, IV fluids if you're dehydrated.
Let's go ahead and bring the victim into the shower.
Why avoid the hospitals even if they're the closest to you? Because you may run into this. TGH and St. Joseph's Hospital, Bayfront and All Children's have been running drills to prepare for mass casualties.
I have burns in my chest and an evisceration in my abdomen.
Or masses of people needing to be decontaminated. And some hospitals will be hard to get to due to road closures.
Well, you know, try to treat yourself as much as you can. If you feel a little dehydrated, take your own fluids, things like that. But if you have to go somewhere, utilize the walk-in clinics, the non-busy emergency departments.
So again, paramedics will be able to drive through road closures. You won't. So in the event of a true emergency, these experts say call 911 and let the ambulance take you to the closest hospital. Well, Bayfront and All Children's Hospital really should not be affected much after tonight. That's when the focus will shift to Tampa. Tampa General Hospital definitely, maybe St. Joseph's Hospital. All right, back here to the party. We are waiting for Carla Davis, who did really well this year on The Voice. We are also tweeting pictures from this party, and you can join me on Twitter at El Hurtado WFTS. Back to you.
All right, thanks, Linda. Beyond the roads, some of the biggest parking lots and garages will also be sealed off and reserved for RNC delegates. That includes some locations downtown that workers use the most.
Meredith Sensulo shows you how to get around some of these parking problems. Meredith?
The big lots, guys, that are closed off are those right near the convention center, including the South Regional Garage. A couple of parking garages, though, are still open. Fort Brooke Garage, that's the one there on Tampa Street near Whiting. That is open. Tampa Street southbound gets you there. Don't expect to find parking spots, though, for very long each morning. I'm sure they're going to fill up pretty quickly. Channel side lots will remain open. You can access those from Meridian. I do want to let you know that tomorrow is when we're going to see that parade route established in Tampa along Washington, Morgan, Whiting, and Nebraska. And I'm pointing this out because if you are going to stand in one of those viewing areas, you're not going to be able to park. You're actually going to need to be dropped off. The drop-off zone on Jackson Street between Morgan and Jefferson. All of this information is on the homepage of abcactionnews.com. Look for the RNC traffic story, and you can also follow me on Twitter for traffic updates throughout the RNC. I'm at Tampa Bay Traffic. Now back to you.
All right, thanks, Meredith. Yeah, tropical system was about the last thing we needed to complicate this already ambitious convention.
Chief Meteorologist Dennis Phillips has a look at the latest track for Isaac right now. Den, how's it looking?
Well, you know, it's starting to ramp up. Jeremy has been running our web chat now since 6 o'clock. We've had a Skype with the Red Cross. We're actually Skyping right now with WPTV, our sister station in West Palm, giving folks updates about what's going on, a very nice interactive way of what's happening out there with our weather. And speaking of live, there is a look at Isaac, and that is exactly what this storm is doing. It is getting better organized, and it seems very likely that if this were to continue, we might very well be looking at a hurricane as it moves away from us. Key words, as it moves away from us. There you see it right there. That's the center of circulation. There's more red. Recon's flying in continuously. So if this does bump up to a hurricane, we'll know it rather quickly. Latest report, 60 miles an hour. A new advisory comes out, though, in about a half hour. The track, that does not change at the intermediate advisory. If there was a change to anything, it happens every 6 hours, and that is not the case this go around. This is going to be a major issue for the northern Gulf Coast. We can't pinpoint where, but from Pensacola back to Mobile, right on back to New Orleans, there is a realistic shot we could see a 2, possibly a Category 3 hurricane move inland. So obviously folks are going to be thinking Camille, thinking Katrina. Too early to say that size, but there's a lot of warm water out there. And for us, as we've been mentioning, tropical storm warnings discontinued for our northern counties of Citrus and Hernando County. Here's the way it plays out. Tonight, there's your area of low pressure. That's Isaac, rotating counterclockwise. So bands will come back from the southeast toward the northwest. So folks, we've already had reports of funnel clouds in Highlands County. So there will be rotation. Think about it. This is a giant rotating thunderstorm. There's a ton of shear. If you see shear, you see the possibility of tornadoes. Tomorrow morning, as it gets better organized, we'll continue to see heaviest rain in our southern counties, closer to the storm. But as it ramps up and pulls away, the winds will then come in out of the west-southwest. And that's where if we see any coastal flooding, and I don't think we're going to see much, but if we had any at all, it would be late tomorrow afternoon into tomorrow night, and that also is when we could see the additional chance of a tornado or two. But bottom line, and we've been saying this for a couple of days, this is not a major issue. Certainly winds gusting near tropical storm force along the beach, maybe a little less inland, but bottom line, this will be a wind maker to a moderate extent. A rainmaker a little bit more. Flooding only in areas that had a ton of it. And you all know where that's been. Pasco County, you have seen a ton of it of late. And there's more rain in store for the next couple of days. There it is, right on through the beginning of the RNC. And for that matter, to the end of the week, things improving dramatically by later Tuesday into Wednesday. And by the time we hit Thursday, sunshine, back to normal, low 90s. Guys?
Thanks, Dennis. When we come back, Jameson is going to give us a look at an area that law enforcement will be watching closely during this convention. Jameson?
Yeah, that's right, Wendy. They call them event zones, also known as protest zones. I'm Jameson Euler. Coming up, I'm going to show you around and just how close they are to the Tampa Bay Times Forum.
Plus, we'll take a closer look at some of the protest groups planning to make a statement here when navigating the RNC continues.
Ground. It's really breaking up, he says. It's unusable right now. Really? You want to just move back?
Welcome back to our special coverage navigating the Republican National Convention live from the Tampa Bay Times Forum.
Starting tomorrow, thousands of protesters are expected to take to downtown streets and parks to let their voices be heard. From the start, there was a lot of controversy as to just how close demonstrators could get to the forum and the restrictions as to what they can bring.
People are testing that apparently. Just today, Hillsborough County deputies arrested a man who they say was seen walking into the RNC event zone with a machete strapped to his leg.
Our Jameson Euler looks at the event zones the city has set up, hoping it will contain any outbreaks of violence.
We're just 1 block away from the site of this year's RNC, and this is right at the end of the protest parade route, and this is where the city is hoping that the thousands of demonstrators and protesters will come to congregate during the week of the RNC. There are 3 event zones set up around the city that are just like this. There's 7 acres altogether. This lot here that I'm standing in being the largest, it has a stage and a sound system that demonstrators can use from 9 a.m. until sundown. This area also going to be complete with restrooms and clean water that demonstrators can use any time of the day. The city has been working, though, in the last few days especially to cut down a lot of this grass, and they've been going through this lot, going through the rubble, looking for big pieces of rocks or concrete, anything that could be used potentially to cause any damage. Then, just a few blocks away, the city also set up 2 other event zones. They're strategically placed right under the Selman Expressway to provide demonstrators a place to take a break from the sun and from the heat. That's another reason the city said that they chose this lot as well, because it has trees and can provide demonstrators a little relief from that Florida heat by taking a break underneath those trees for a little bit of shade. But a lot of these protest groups have already gone online saying that they're not happy with this event zone or any other event zone unless they can get themselves right up to within sight and sound of the Tampa Bay Times Forum. Yeah, and the biggest protest day is expected to be tomorrow, day 1 of the RNC, but now that day 1 has been at least postponed, it's still unclear as to what that's going to mean for all the protests that were planned tomorrow. Law enforcement is gearing up for the fact that they expect the protesters to still come out here, even though Tropical Storm Isaac is still looming there off in the Gulf of Mexico. Law enforcement also has trained with the expectation that 15,000 demonstrators will be here in Tampa over the course of the next 4 days, many of whom have made it very clear online that they are coming here to Tampa gearing up for a fight. Let's turn our attention now to that. Our Carson Chambers has a closer look at who these protesters are.
The fight has been long, but it is far from over.
Their video is an open invitation to the world to come to Tampa.
August 27, 2012.
And to protest the Republican National Convention. Anonymous is a worldwide hackers organization that promises to have a presence among the thousands who will flood downtown Tampa to exercise their freedom of speech.
They use the net, they, try to engage in flash demonstrations. They try to use high technology.
University of South Florida professor Harry Vanden is well versed in social justice movements. He spent time with Occupy Tampa protesters and says Occupy groups from other cities will likely travel to Tampa as well.
You'll find that the vast majority of these groups are not interested in violent provocation, nor are they interested in, violent activities.
That said, history has shown with trade talks and past political conventions in Seattle, Minneapolis, and Chicago that groups will be bent on violence.
They're dressed all in black. They're very well organized. They have individuals in their organization that are specifically assigned to duties during the actual protest.
The Black Bloc is an anarchist group that clashed with Chicago police at this spring's G8 summit. Larry McKinnon with the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office was there. His cell phone video shows a Black Bloc group in the crowd, bandanas and face masks, hiding their identities. He also says some protesters will use tactics to turn a crowd against police.
They will fake injuries. They'll use Hollywood-style blood. They'll do anything they can to incite those that are in the crowd.
In that same crowd, though, you'll find Anita Stewart wearing pink. She's a military intelligence veteran whose anti-war group is known nationwide for over-the-top protests.
Code Pink has always stood for Women for Peace and ending the wars.
Stewart says Code Pink's national chapter is sending reps to teach locals how to demonstrate peacefully. She frowns on those who plan violence.
I wish they wouldn't.
A crowd that's coming from all walks of life, from all over the world to Tampa, invited or not.
We cannot quit.
Well, coming up, it's not just politicians who will be catching attention around the Bay Area this week, but also some celebrities.
That's right. We'll show you which clubs, restaurants, and other venues the stars are taking over when navigating the RNC continues. Welcome back to the Tampa Bay Times Forum. You may have been warned that some very popular parks, restaurants, and other venues are going to be off limits to the public this week.
That's right. Curtis Hickson Park will not reopen to the public until after the Republican National Convention. Crews put up a tent in the park that will host lunches, policy presentations, and nightclub-style parties during this RNC week. All events there are invitation only. The park will reopen when the tent comes down on September 3rd.
Those parties at Curtis Hickson Park may be invitation only, but our party reporter Linda Hurtado has been invited for a tour Monday, weather permitting.
And right now she's at the party at the Trop. Linda, how's it going out there?
Oh, it's a lot of fun here, Wendy. You know, we have been invited to some of those invitation-only events, and our goal, as always, is to take you with us, our viewers. Now, some of the parties have been postponed or put off because of the weather. Leonard Skinner down at the Liberty Plaza, actually had to cancel tonight due to safety reasons. I talked to the executive producer of the show, and he said Tuesday the shows continue. They have Trace Adkins, Kid Rock, Journey, but again, those are invitation-only parties. So, here are some hot spots that you can go to for celebrity watching during RNC week.
You don't need an invitation to hang out at Tampa's Channelside Bay Plaza. This fun zone of restaurants and shops is close to the Tampa Bay Times Forum, but just outside the Secret Service security zone. So, pull up a chair at one of their open restaurants. As many as 30 RNC-related events have been booked at venues like Howl at the Moon in Splitsville. MSNBC will set up shows like Morning Joe there, and rumor has it this may be one of your best bets for a Sarah Palin sighting. Right next door at the Florida Aquarium, event planner Jason has his hands full with at least 11 parties in 4 days.
Well, we have parties back to back. Fortunately for us, I mean, morning, noon, and night, breakfast, brunch, lunch, dinner, and then late night parties back to back to back.
The aquarium will be closed to the public the 26th through the 29th, but we can take you inside. So stay tuned for an insider's view of what may be one of the busiest venues in Tampa. If you've been downtown in the last few weeks, you may have noticed two large facilities coming up from nothing. Liberty Plaza on Morgan Street and One Oak at Curtis Hickson Park. Now these will be harder to get to. They're inside that event zone, little to no parking available, and invitation-only events. But if you can get close enough on foot, you may hear Kid Rock rapping or Camp Freddy rocking. On your way out of downtown, you can stop by the Glazer Museum for Children for Facebook's Big Bash, or the Straz Center for Performing Arts, where you can catch Jon Stewart and his Daily Show. Tickets have been available through Comedy Central. Now, if you want to avoid downtown altogether, hit Ybor City. Well known for its late-night mayhem, RNC Week, you may run into Jeb Bush at a speakeasy-themed soiree at the Cuban Club. Or, for the right price, you can dance the night away with Gavin DeGraw performing at the Dallas Bull.
And we will be there at the Dallas Bull, bringing you all the good stuff that goes on behind the scenes. Right now, however, we are tweeting pictures from the Trop, and we're waiting for the headliner, Rodney Atkins. Now, I had a chance to interview him a short time ago. If you're a country music fan, stay tuned tonight at 11 because you'll hear why he decided to headline this venue, and it has something to do with our military members. Reporting live from the Trop, Linda Hurtado, back to you.
Thanks, Linda. And we want to get one more final check on Isaac and its direction with Dennis. Dennis?
Well, guys, we continue to see what appears to be a strengthening storm. I would not be surprised when the new numbers come out any second if it's a bit stronger. Certainly within the next 12 hours, there's a legitimate chance this could become a hurricane based on what we're seeing right now. And as it pulls away from Texas, or rather from Florida, and heads toward Texas, maybe down the road, so says the new GFS, we could be seeing an even stronger system. But right now, there's the latest. This track over the next 24 hours pulls it away from us. Tropical storm force winds, you betcha, right along the coastline. Flooding rains, 4 to 6 inches southern counties, 3 to 5 northern counties. Surge, I simply don't see it, with dramatic improvements by Monday late, and then much better Tuesday into Wednesday. Guys?
Thanks, Dennis. We have answers to your questions about the RNC. You can find the information you need to get you around town during this convention at abcactionnews.com/RNC.
ABC Action News will bring you live team coverage on air and online from here at the Tampa Bay Times Forum over the next few days as this historic event unfolds in our own backyard.
Just getting started. Join us again tonight for our special 1-hour live coverage at 11 o'clock, and we'll keep you posted on the RNC and Isaac on Facebook, Twitter, and on abcactionnews.com. Until then, good night and thank you for watching.